Love this guy. Love what he's doing on the worldwide leader in sports, whether it's calling games with Mark Jones or sitting on the Monday Night Countdown set or calling into this show from ESPN, joining on behalf of the 2022 All-State AFCA Good Works team is none other than Robert Griffin III. How are you doing, Robert?
Rich, I'm doing great. How you doing, brother?
I love talking to you. I just love watching you. You crack me up, but you also make me smarter. That's it. Period. It's great.
Hey, man, we're just trying to have fun. Football is supposed to be fun. You know this. You've done it for an extremely long time, even though you still look like you're about 33 years old.
Bless you.
So we have fun on our broadcast, and that's why I think the people, gravitate towards what we're doing.
Fantastic. So let's just jump right into it here. The Russell Wilson birthday story and the RSVP list and how it got out there. That's the thing that I'm fascinated by, is who's putting this out there as if there's a locker room problem and the glass is half empty as opposed to a party half full, Robert?
Man, I don't know who's doing it, but it all started, obviously, with the way that Russell's played, the way the Broncos have played. I kind of mentioned this on Monday Night Countdown, that the situation that they brought Russell into is completely different than the two situations that they probably looked at as the key to doing what they did with Russell. Obviously, Matthew Stafford going to the Rams, and then Tom Brady going to the Bucs. Now, both of those teams had established head coaches, had an established environment, and just needed a quarterback to get them over the hump. And that happened for them. They won the Super Bowl. But Russell came to a team with a first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator, whole completely new, different staff, and a young group of skilled players on the offensive side of the football. And all those ingredients just haven't been able to mix very well, i.e. Russ hasn't been able to cook. So when you look at what Mike Purcell did in the game, kind of screaming at the quarterback, you never truly see that happen on a football field, or let alone on a football team. So that leads to more speculation in the locker room. You got KJ Hamler slamming his helmet on the ground early in the year when Russell missed it wide open in the end zone for the game winner. And now you got this birthday story. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I don't know why that got out. Guys throw birthday parties all the time and no one shows up, or half the team shows up. So why does it even matter? At the end of the day, Russell and Sierra are happy. It's his birthday. He gets to celebrate it, and you just move on. There seems to be a lot of people piling on to Russell Wilson because they haven't been able to over the last 10 years.
Well, I was saying, like, whoever's putting it out there with the knives out, it's too bad he's going nowhere, and that's the whole thing. Is this? No, he's got this situation has to be rehabilitated, Robert. That's the bottom line. And anybody in that locker room who wants to win, thinking that him being benched or sent packing or embarrassed or be clowned in the process is going to actually lead to those wins is sadly mistaken. So I don't kind of get it. And what are you seeing that you think can be rehabilitated, this situation that has deteriorated in Denver?
Yeah, Rich, you're 100% right. Russell's not going anywhere. Yeah. They owe him way too much money. So for me, a lot of people are saying, hey, get rid of the coach. I don't necessarily know if that's the solution. That's probably the popular solution, the popular thing to say. But they also pay that coach a bunch of money, and they're going to owe him money to not coach there if they fire him after 1 year. So I just think if you go back and you look at what Russell has done well over the course of his career, it's not drop-back passing. He's never been that type of quarterback. He is more of an off-rhythm guy when he gets into the pocket. And, yes, his height does have something to do with that. But a couple things he has done extremely well over the course of his career is RPOs and play-action shots. So what that means to me is that the Broncos have to find a way to develop their running game through the rest of this year, and then obviously in the draft or free agency next year, bring in some guys that will mimic what Russell was able to do with Marshawn Lynch, Robert Turbin, and those gaggle of backs that he had in Seattle. That's going to allow some pressure to be taken off of him because he's never been a rhythm and timing guy, 3-step, 5-step, 7-step, like Hackett had with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay for a few years. That's not his game. So they have to go back, watch the tape from the last 10 years of what Russell did in Seattle, cherry pick 10 to 15 concepts that you're like, all right, he sees this really, really well. I wasn't his coach. I don't really know him that well, but this coach knew him, and he was with him for an extended period of time. Let's go run those concepts because as a coach, the main thing you have to do is put your players in position to be successful, not put them in your system and tell them to go run your system. Now, I don't know if that's happening or not in Denver, but it definitely looks like Russell is not comfortable with the offense that he's running. His feet are off. His timing is off. The look on his face doesn't scream confidence. Even though he says his confidence never wavers, it looks like his confidence is wavering in the way that he's playing. So I think that's what the coaches have to go do because they have no choice. They got to make Russell work.
What would you counsel him, Robert? I mean, I don't think I'm telling any tales out of school here, but at one point in the Washington locker room, there was questions about you having maybe lost it and at some point in time, the way things are going on with your career. Kirk Cousins was sitting right there. You know, you had a knee injury, and I'm wondering if does any of this sound familiar to you at all, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't sound familiar just because I made sure for my own self that I didn't allow what the outside was saying about me to dictate who I was. My teammates in that locker room knew who I was. They knew how much I cared about them. They knew I gave my all for them. Heck, I gave an ACL and a left ankle for that locker room for those guys. So a lot of this stuff can be created by the outside. I remember vividly there was a story when I was there in Washington that the locker room was upset that I was becoming the starter again. I think this might have been in 2014, when really the true story was that the locker room was upset that the media had come out and said something bad about one of our players, and they didn't want them in the locker room anymore. It just so happened that whole ordeal happened when I was coming back as a starter, and it was pitched in a way that wasn't true. So the guys in the locker room were upset about that. They're talking to me about it. We're talking about it. But there's no control that you can have outside of the locker room. So for Russell and the Broncos, it's one of those things of take care of your guys. Russell is your guy moving forward. You have to take care of him. You got to support him, whether that be social media-wise, because we live in a social media age, whether that be in your press conferences. And Russell's got to do the same. He's got to support his guys. He's got to take accountability for what he's done and how he's played and try to continue to get better and then go get better. So from that standpoint, it doesn't remind me of anything. But, yes, the stories from the outside about losing the locker room as a player, as a quarterback, all those things happen to every quarterback throughout the history of the league. It's just about how you handle it moving forward. And then for Russell, he can't. There's no way they can bench the guy. He's got to be their guy, so that's not going to happen. Whereas for me, with Kirk Cousins, I was taken out of the lineup and replaced. And then it was my job in 2015 to just make sure I was a good teammate to Kirk Cousins on that team. And that team in 2015 ended up winning a division. So I wasn't a distraction. I made sure I was a pro's pro. Russell's got to be a pro's pro in the locker room and just sit down and talk to his guys about what more they need from him.
Robert Griffin III here on the Rich Eisen Show, care of Allstate AFC, Good Works team from ESPN as well. We'll get to Allstate in a second. It does appear that there's something, or Patrick Peterson says something's going on in the Arizona Cardinals locker room, and he said on his podcast that Kyler Murray is all about Kyler Murray, and that Cliff Kingsbury is going to wind up being the one blamed for all of this. Kyler claps back at him quite a bit, quite strongly on social media. What do you see when you watch the Arizona Cardinals play, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, this last game they played against the Chargers was probably the best they looked offensively all year. I think Kyler took the opportunity when he was out to just go back to the basics and say, all right, I'm going to run the play. I'm going to make sure I get the ball out of my hands. I'm going to utilize my playmakers and make a few special plays here and there. And he did that. They just didn't come out victorious. Whereas earlier in the year, they just looked helter-skelter. You didn't know what was going on. They had no rhythm or timing. Kyler was on a different page from literally every single person on the offensive side of the football, from the head coach to even his star receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. When he came back, you could see the frustration on the sideline with those guys yelling at each other. So I put out there that I think they should make Kyler install the offense so that everyone on the offensive side of the ball sees the game the way that he sees it, as opposed to the coach putting it in, and now everyone goes in on the field with a certain expectation, and Kyler has a different thought process going through his head when he's seeing the same exact plays. So I still think that's the solution for them. But they're also in a situation where Kyler's got to be the guy. They just paid him. They have to make it work with him, and he's got the coach that recruited him out of high school to go to Texas A&M. So at the end of the day, they just have to get away from this media firestorm. And what you just mentioned with Patrick Peterson and Kyler doesn't really help that part of it. No. And on this part, I'll go ahead and say it. I know you might ask. Mm-hmm. Kyler's right in this regard. If Patrick Peterson is a big brother, big bro / mentor to Kyler, then he should have picked up the phone and talked to Kyler instead of dragging him on social media so his podcast could grow. That I do agree with. If you have a relationship with the guy and you're considered a mentor or a big brother, you should definitely go to them first before you say something like that publicly.
RG3 here on the Rich Eisen Show. Also saw on your terrific Twitter account that I follow your opinion. Oh, no, seriously, it's great, man. I just love all the content that you're putting out there. I take it all in, certainly since, I'm not watching everything you're doing in real time, but I'm catching up on it through at RG3. So what's your opinion about Rodgers? You think the Packers should sit him right now? What's your 2 cents on that with Jordan Love?
Yeah, so the Packers have, I believe, a 3% chance of making the playoffs. Essentially what that means is they have to win out, and they got to get a boatload of help from everybody else around the league just to be in contention for a wild card spot. Mm-hmm. So in that regard, the best thing for the organization is to play Jordan Love. Yes, everybody in that locker room is showing up every Sunday, Thursday, or Monday to win football games, and Aaron Rodgers gives them the best chance to win. But for their foreseeable future, they need to know right now whether Jordan Love is their quarterback of the future. They got 5 games left. Give Jordan Love those 5 games to go out there and prove that he's either the guy or he's not the guy. 3 years ago, he was drafted. He hasn't had significant playing time in any of those years. Aaron Rodgers is not going to play for another 5 to 7 years, and they need to know next year, are we building again to build around Aaron Rodgers, because they are. They paid him for 2-3 years more. Or are we now starting over the clock, going to decline Jordan Love's 5th-year option and look for Rodgers' replacement in the next draft or the next draft? I think that's important for them. They're a long-term thinking organization. That's why they went and got those young wide receivers and let go of Devontae Adams, which was a mistake. But they need to know that. And if they can't get in the playoffs, or really it's bleak for them to get in the playoffs, play Jordan Love. You know what Aaron Rodgers is going to give you. You owe him $60 million next year anyway. You might as well find out if you have your quarterback of the future.
And you also know very well Lamar Jackson, Robert Griffin III, and you saw, I'm sure, his clap back on Twitter, and John Harbaugh, I think, rightfully called it out of character for him, but it was very profane, and it was also showing that he's hearing the criticism and bothered by some of it. And I'm wondering what you make of that and the Ravens' opportunity in front of Lamar Jackson right now. Robert, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a couple things, Rich. Lamar definitely showed his frustration. You never want to do that, but I made mistakes like that when I was a 23, 24-year-old quarterback in the NFL, using Twitter as well, so I understand it from that point. 2, the South Florida definitely came out of Lamar. Was it out of character? 100% out of character for him to say something like that on a public forum where millions of people can go out there and see it. And, that's why he ultimately ended up deleting it, because somebody got in his ear and said, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. And he shouldn't have said what he said, and he understands that too. The third thing is, a lot of people are saying that because of the way Lamar is playing this year, he shouldn't get the contract that he's demanding. And I vehemently deny that, don't disagree with it wholeheartedly. Lamar has earned the contract that he's going to get because of his play throughout his career. It's not just this year in a vacuum. And I think the Ravens might be a little bit discouraged in paying Lamar because of what happened with Joe Flacco. They paid Joe Flacco after he won the Super Bowl. He bet on himself, went and got it done. And then they proceeded to miss the playoffs, I believe, either 4 out of the next 5 years or 4 out of the next 6 years. And they weren't able to pay other guys and build a team around Joe to help him be successful. I think that might be something to do with why they're a little reluctant to pay him and kind of letting this draw out. but the Chiefs have shown you and the Bills have shown you that you can pay your quarterback a boatload of money and still go build around him through the draft, through free agency, paying a few select high-priced guys that are difference makers and still be in contention every single year. So I think Lamar is just tired of people kind of tying his play this year to the money that he should get. And I understand that. Just keep it off of social.
Yeah, I'm not hearing Odell and the Ravens in the same sentence because it sounds like I know they got Deshaun Jackson, but, man, Odell would be exactly what they kind of need here, you know? I mean, it does appear that's missing from their game right now.
Yeah, with Rashad Bateman being out, Rich, it's hurt them a lot. Mark Andrews' his production has been down.
Sure.
Not that he's a different player, but people are keying in on him, trying to shut him down now. So OBJ would be a great fit in Baltimore, but I've said this time and time again. I'm sure you've heard it, Rich.
Yep.
The free agent receivers, they're not going to want to go to Baltimore just because of the way that they run their system. Now it's been a little more pass happy this year, and I think that would be great for Lamar to get a guy like OBJ. He's never truly had a guy like that in his career. But I think OBJ is more so looking at the Cowboys, going back home to the Giants or possibly the Buffalo Bills because those quarterbacks are known for throwing the football 35, 40 times a game. Hopefully Dak doesn't do that because that'll be really bad for the Cowboys offense. That's not when they're their best. But OBJ, I don't think that he would want to go to Baltimore.
What are you doing with Allstate, sir? What do you got?
Yeah, Rich, if you didn't know this, I was a part of the Allstate AFCA Good Works team back in 2011 when Baylor won the Heisman and I was able to go pro. So to partner with them now is an honor for me. This is their 31st year in existence, Allstate and the AFCA Good Works team. And you'll love this, Rich, because we're trying to get 1,000 volunteers to get involved in their community, right? We partner with the DoSomething.org for the Do Something initiative, and that's exactly what we're trying to get people to do something. I ran in the Run Rich Run charity event with you this past year, and that was a ton of fun. And you know this, the best way to get active in your community is to actually go out and be in it, right? Give your time so people can go to DoSomething.org/Good Works team. And what you'll find is volunteer opportunities in your own community, but also some volunteer opportunities that the players on this team, like Caleb Williams, the quarterback from USC, he has an initiative with mental health awareness and also anti-bullying that you can go be a part of. So go be a part of some of your favorite players' initiatives. Go be a part of initiatives in your own community. And that's important for me because I remember, Rich, when I was a young kid in Coppers Cove, Texas, which most people don't even know where that's at. But it's right next to the biggest Army base in America in Fort Hood. And a guy by the name of Charles Tillman came back and played basketball with us on my seventh grade team. And I told myself in that moment, if I ever make it, I'm going to make sure that these kids out there know that they're not forgotten. And I think that's a big opportunity for volunteers with us, with the Allstate AFCA Good Works team and the Do Something initiative to go out there and show these kids that they're not forgotten because that kid's life that you impact could be the one who changes the world in the future. So let's go do something and help change the world.
Beautifully put, as always. DoSomething.org/Good Works team to find ways to get involved and do your own good work. You mentioned Caleb Williams going out the door. Does he get your vote? I had Desmond on Wednesday, and Desmond Howard was wide open. He was talking about Max Duggan. He was talking about a whole bunch of players. Who gets your vote right now, Robert?
Well, first of all, Desmond's going to be wide open because he's technically not supposed to tell you who his vote is for.
Okay.
But I would say this: it's Caleb to lose, but it's a two-man race. It's Caleb Williams and Max Duggan. Now, if they both go out there and play bad and have a terrible championship Saturday, it is wide open. There's guys that I put out my list on Twitter maybe 30, 40 minutes ago, an hour ago, and there's guys that aren't on that list that could end up winning the Heisman if all these guys just have a bad day. Whether it's Hendon Hooker, who did get hurt but had a great year, Michael Penix Jr. From Washington. But I've got a gaggle of guys that are on that list that have all had really great years. The Heisman's more open this year than I think it's ever been in any other year. And then as I'm going out the door, Rich, I just want to also say,
yes, sir.
Talking about getting activated in the community, if anybody wants to help, they can go to rg3sports.com/RG3 Foundation. We're doing Christmas giveaways in Houston, Texas, and also Coppers Cove, Texas, where I'm from. And you can go there, click on the donate button, and give whatever's on your heart to allow us to go out and bless these kids in these communities who don't necessarily have all the money to go out and buy the gifts and truly experience Christmas like some of us are right now. So if you want to help there, like I said, go to rg3sports.com/RG3 Foundation. It'll really help.
And speaking of being blessed, did I see that is another baby on the way? Robert, did I see that?
Man.
Did I see that?
Yes, you did, Rich. Got another baby, and I'll go ahead and be the spoiler alert. It's a baby girl, so I'm a girl dad 4 times over. Just really blessed and excited about it.
You are surrounded, sir. You are surrounded. You are surrounded, but it's a beautiful thing. I love being a girl dad and blessed now 4 times over. Best your wife, best your whole family. Let's chat again soon. Greatly appreciate it always, sir.
You got it. Appreciate you, Rich. God bless, brother.
You bet. Right back at you. The best. RG3, at RG3, at RGIII, not the number 3, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.